Hello, I am Mando, and today I am going to be walking out in obedience. AKA, I felt a video about just this topic, and while I might not feel super everything I want to say, I'm just going to talk. So, nice to see you. Today we are going to be talking about the topic of fear and the topic of control, and as I'm sure you can probably guess, those two kind of linked. And I know this pretty stinking well. So, a bit of backstory. I actually grew up as a very fearful child, which is really weird because I grew up really well. I wasn't really exposed to a ton of tragedy or trauma growing up. I had a really actually normal childhood. But that being said, I still had this deep existentialism. I would just overthink all the time. My earliest memory of being existential is when I had to have been around 6 or 7, and even then there were historical recordings of me being very afraid before that, and I didn't know what to do about it, which is my brain. So the natural thing to do when everything around you feels so out of control and you're so afraid is to try and control it in the best way and the only way that your brain can make up. So that developed into OCD. But I didn't know it at the time. I had no idea what was going on. You may be wondering, so how, why, what even is OCD? Do you mean you clean all the time? And that, not discrediting those who clean with OCD. That's real. Kind of OCD that I dealt with was I just became really vigorous and what is the word? Don't know the stinking word. Ritualistic. So yeah, became super ritualistic. I would do things it was strange because it was just this little voice in my head which would tell me, the way that OCD presented itself to me was that it was like a little voice in my head, and it would tell me things like, this is just an example, if you do not walk on this tile this amount of times, you will have 7 years of bad luck. But yeah, so I was super ritualistic. It was if you don't do this, this bad thing will happen to you. And in a weird, sick and twisted kind of way, I saw that as a little bit comforting, because it suddenly felt like it was something I could control. When you have this obsession with control, at least in my case, and I guarantee in a lot of other people's cases, if not every case, but I don't want to say that because, you know what? If you've been in a case where you've had control issues that haven't stemmed from fear, let me know, because I'm always wanting to know. But I am pretty sure that control and fear are interlocked, that we try to control things that are out of control, and when things feel out of control. And the OCD that I had was nowhere near the extremities of what I have seen and heard other people who suffer from OCD go through. OCD can get really, really dangerous for a lot of And while I was definitely not there yet, I was going down that path. It was very clear. It was like an illuminated sign of like, this is Danger Valley. And I was like, okay, but if I escape this, then the rest of the world is also Danger Valley. What kind of rerouted me was like this other sign, aka I read my devotionals one day, and it was like talking about how God wants us to be walking in freedom. It was just kind of like, okay, so freedom comes from God, which means that what I'm doing isn't from God, which means it's pointless. He knows better. And this is obviously a me thing. I cannot keep walking in this. At the time, keep in mind, I had no idea that it was OCD. I actually found out that it was, what I was struggling with was OCD like years later when I watched a video of like another girl who struggled from OCD, and like it really resonated with me. A few years after that, got diagnosed. So when you have a place of like foundational truth that is above your own, those two truths can kind of either quarrel, but one of them will trump over the other. And the truth is that we cannot, no matter how hard we try, control God's hand and control God's will. And that should be good news. Because to be honest, like, as strong as we think we are, and as wise as we think we are, and as devastating as our brain will make up these like crazy scenarios for us to bow to, He is wiser and He is better. So basically, after I had that realization and revelation and put away my devotionals for the night, I woke up the next morning and was like, okay, I'm gonna not do anything that my brain tells me to do. So my brain was like, yo, stinkin', if you don't listen to this song, you're done. And I was like, okay. Or like, if you don't yell right now, you're done. If you don't touch this faucet this amount of times, you're done. If you don't tap the side of your computer screen this amount of times, you're done. And everything within my body, it was literally like this feeling in my hands of like, must do it, have to do it. Like, it was so outside of my own like control and my own like desire and will. It was literally like another sense of like, I have to do this. It's not just a thought, it's a feeling that comes with it. But I didn't do it. And what I discovered is that my day remained the exact same. And I kind of knew it, but it was very, very discouraging to me. And you might think like, oh, why? You're free. You didn't have to like bow to the very rigid rules and commands of your mind. But at the same time, I was left completely out in the open, and suddenly I realized I have no control here. Life is going to happen, and there is no ritual I can do in my own strength, out of my own will, in my own mind, to stop it. So this is the kind of picture that I got in my mind when I felt to talk about this, is that there's one way of going about fear, which is to grab on so stinking tight. And I imagine it's like a hand squeezing the life out of you, because that is what fear is. You are stuck. You are unable to move. You are at the will of whatever the hand does to you. And it is, in a strange way, kind of comforting. But if you allow it, and if you succumb to it, the hand is just going to get tighter and tighter until you pop. Whether that's the bad thing actually happening, or just to let your mind go wild. However you allow fear to tighten its grip around you, you will feel the effects of that. But then, let's imagine somehow the hand lets you go. You're like, you mean nothing to me. In fact, nothing means anything to me. I am free. I can run around. I can do whatever I want. And it is boundaryless. There's actually nothing to stop me at all. But I am on my own. So you are able to run. You are able to do whatever you need to do. But as you are experiencing this beautiful world and this beautiful life all on your own, when a pitfall comes, you are on your own and there is nothing to help you. And you may fall, to be honest. Things are gonna happen. And I think that we have this inherent knowledge of like, there are pitfalls. There are things that are going to come, and we are not going to know what to do about them. I feel like that is the exact image that causes us to fear so heavily in the first place. None of us want to be blindsided. We all want to be able to walk through this life in a way of being prepared. So we often are gravitated towards that hand, because at least in that hand, it is by our own will what happens to us. At least if that hand gets so tight around us, we still feel like it's by our own doing and we won't be blindsided. We are more willing to lean into a life of bondage, in a life that is not controlled by anything other than whatever we're afraid of, because it's still better than getting blindsided. But then, what are we to do? Because either way, it's going to be hurtful. And the clearest image that I get is of a hand. And it's a hand for us to not necessarily be grasped by, but to take hold of. And it has to be a hand that will guide us and lead us wisely. If we know that we are getting led by someone better than us, someone wiser than us, someone who actually knows what is going on, then we have a lot less fear of where he leads us. And the thing is about the hand of God is that he will not choke us. He will not, he does call us to freedom. That's what I learned all those years ago, is that he wants us to be free. But he also wants to be able to lead us and guide us. And the thing is with God is that he's not necessarily going to drag us along life's path, but he will be able to find us the best routes. And the floor might still fall out from beneath us. People might dig holes around us that we might fall through, or just the fact that we live in a fallen world. But when we have him, we can trust that he's going to reach down and actually grab us. He will prop us back up. No matter what happens, he is good. And when we know that he is stable, then the floor falling out from beneath us is a lot less scary. It still stinks. It still makes the heart go. But we could fall and hit rock bottom, and we still know that he's gonna come get us. And we can cry into him. But yeah, I hope that kind of made sense. So I encourage you to let go of control, let go of yourself, let go of your situation. Take hold of the hand that is so much stronger than your own, and allow him to guide you and lead you, and humble yourself to that. I wrote in my notes a few months ago that peace begins at the end of our own strength, and that is true. When we are aware that bad things will happen, and when we stop pretending pretending like we can control it, when we stop running around trying to fix everything, when we trust that God is good, it takes a lot of responsibility off of our shoulders, and it will bring us peace. I hope that if you stick around, that this video is a blessing to you, and I most of all just want to say, God bless you. So go ahead, walk in freedom, walk out that freedom. It might be, it might take getting to know God's character a little bit more to want to hold that hand. But I highly suggest looking into him. Peace be with you on your walk. So yeah. Peace out. Bye-bye. Thanks for watching. There's nothing holding you. You are free. You can do... Oh, excuse my cat if you hear my cat. Let's start that over. What? So here's the picture. I see it kind of like a hand grasping in. Oh, I'm gonna let my cat in. Sorry, myself, because I'm the one in control of this. Peanut, come in. Yes. Special guest. Free to go. Freedom. No? He doesn't care. It will pop. You, what? You will pop. Sorry, I'm distracted because my cat is playing with something on my ground. If... I'm sorry.